Welcome back to the Treehouse. We're the Fallen Fruit. I'm Catherine Urban.
Stephanie Genese.
Lynette Ramos.
And today we have a special episode. We are talking about tarot. And so, of course, we have our resident tarot reader, Stephanie.
Hey.
And so we're going to be picking Stephanie's brain on a few specific tarot cards. Mm-hmm. And you'll see why we chose these specific cards because of, we're in fall season. We're at a time where things are kind of falling away. We're really feeling the death and ending vibes. So, Stephanie, what cards are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about death, the devil, and the tower.
Ooh. Dun, dun, dun.
I feel like the tower card is like, if I were to summarize my life.
If you were to pick one card that you're like, this card right here.
The tower.
I would pick death.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know a whole lot about tarot. I love it. I'm so excited to know more. But what I do know is that when either of these three cards pop up, you kind of...
Everybody does. Everybody's butthole tightens.
That's a perfect way to explain it.
It does. It's like, and then I always try to come with a disclaimer, especially death, because people from pop culture, from movies, whatever it may be, see death, and then they're like, does that mean I'm gonna drop dead right now, or dead frogs are gonna come out of the sky? And I have to be like, don't worry. I always start with death is my favorite card, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah. And how do you, in balance, how do you give a direct interpretation? Because sometimes things aren't rosy.
Right.
How do you do that and still be empowering, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I think because life is going to be shitty sometimes, but it's not going to stay shitty forever. So I'm usually try to introduce it listen, yes, shit's going to hit the fan. Or yes, you may have to let go of something that you may not feel you want to let go of necessarily, but at the end it will be best for you. It's getting people to see big picture as opposed to maybe the muck of the present.
Mm-hmm. And are we talking about the death card right now? Or
we're talking about all of them.
Okay.
Because they all kind of have a unfortunate rap or reputation, so all of them have some beauty to them. There's obviously a lesson, there's obviously something beneficial, or they wouldn't be in the deck.
Right.
Yeah. So let's break down the cards one by one a little bit here. So can you tell us specifically a little bit about each card?
Yeah. So we'll go in numerical order. And I also just want to point out that they do happen in a sort of sequential order. Death is card number 13. The devil is 15. And then the tower is 16. They are only separated by card number 14, which is temperance, which is this very beautiful, angelic card. So take note that in between all of these very hard lessons and night of the or what is it
Dark
called?
Night of the Soul.
Dark Night of the Soul.
Gotcha.
Between the start of Dark Night of the Soul work, there is angels and spiritual alchemy and beauty and temperance, and
definitely feel that.
Yeah. So just to point that out, but they do happen sort of back to back. So first we have death, like I said, card number 13. Some decks historically have omitted the name death from the card, calling it the card with no name.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's even to say that word seems almost like you're speaking it into existence. But death, why it is my favorite card is because it is all about transitions, natural transitions, loss, freedom, metamorphosis, release, rebirth. I mean, without death, there cannot be birth. So it's such a necessary card. It holds so much gravity. And it's far from the last card in the deck. it's number 13. It's
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle. So that also tells us that death is not it. It is not final. There's still more to continue. There's still more to do and see and learn. So yeah, it allows us to make room for what's next. So that's also why it's kind of in the middle as well. Yeah, it sucks, but what will be on the other side will be more beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's why it's my favorite. Because I feel like life is little deaths every day, like little transitions. We're making different choices. We're choosing new ways, new paths, new perspectives. We're shedding skin. We're letting go of the old. So death is present every single day. And especially in this season right now, death is ever more present. So this is one of my favorite seasons for obvious reason. My birthday is also in autumn. So, but, Scorpio season, such a powerful time to let go. And then we have Sagittarius season right after, which, right, Catherine? This sense of expansion. So what comes after letting go is this sense of luck and optimism and expansion.
Wonder. What's going on in the spirit world.
Yeah. So yeah, death. I love it.
So what are some of so when that card comes up and people kind of gasp about it, what are some of the preconceived notions that people have about the death card that people have? Yeah,
that death might be coming, or that they themselves are going to drop dead at that moment, or they may see it. It's a kind of a grim looking card. I have the Salvador Dali deck, which I love. And I love this image because it has this tree with this skull in the middle, but on either side of it, on the left is a weeping woman in this black robe, but these tiny ferns are growing off of her. So there's that sense of growth, that sense of through loss, through grief, through pain, we learn, we grow. Our tears are just water for our garden. I'm going through a transition period now, and I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and I said, the grass might not be greener yet, but it is mine to tend and grow and water with all these fucking tears. And then on the right side of the tree with the skull is a beautiful red rose. So there is so much beauty here. And there's this sense of expansion. There's nothing really in the background besides sky and open land. So it's that sense of through death, we enter into the doorway of uncharted territory and limitless possibility.
Yeah.
And don't you ever notice if you go to a funeral and people are grieving, right? And they talk about, don't wait for the funeral for that time where everyone gets together. And it's how they say, give your flowers to the living. And so sometimes we don't really sit in gratitude, or we don't experience or notice the joy in our life until something like that happens. So it is that contrast that sometimes helps us to put things in perspective. And it's so when you have those moments of joy or connection, you can feel them kind of more deeply when you've gone through some sort of death, whether it's physical or not.
Yeah. And I was just telling Lynette and Stephanie before we were recording that we just unexpectedly had to bury our cat. And, there was definitely it was definitely one of the hardest things I've had to do, because I had to make difficult decisions about his life and when it ends. But, our funeral that we had for him was so beautiful. We got to reflect on all the memories, all the good times, all the synchronicities, all the magic that he brought to our lives. There's definitely that red rose. And also, it was definitely, I think death can bring people closer together as well. So, you get that sense of reflection and gratitude, but also kind of relief too. If the death came after a long period of suffering, there's almost a period of it's over.
They're released now, they're maybe free from that pain. And
my grandfather, when he passed away, he was the type of person that some people didn't care for. There were some things that he did in his life that were not proper, and so there was a little bit of separation between him and I just because of his behavior. And it just so happened that I moved into his house a couple weeks after he had transitioned. and I had never felt closer to him, because what happened was is all the personality traits that weren't so nice were gone in a sense. So it's like I was connected more to his essence. So sometimes that can be an interesting thing too. And people were like, how could you live in his house? Like, people were so afraid of death. But for some reason, I didn't feel that way. It was just like I felt connected with him. I saw little signs of him being there, and it turned into a sense of protection.
Wow.
Yeah. I feel like throughout life, I've just been so exposed and have to confront death in the face. Some of my earliest memories are just going to funerals of loved ones. Like, I feel like I've had to go to I've gone to way more funerals than I have weddings.
Wow.
Yeah, just to put that in perspective. Maybe people also don't want to invite me to their weddings.
Yeah.
I carry, my aura is just like ghost white, and they're like, ooh. But there's just been so many significant deaths, and you're right, though. It has brought me closer to my closest friends. It has brought me closer to maybe my community, closer to those memories, and feeling closer to those people, and feeling like now they orbit around me and I can feel their presence. And sometimes I have this thing where I can smell them and hear laughter. That is the one thing, like, I'll always hear of theirs.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and death also, one of the sayings about death is that it's the great equalizer. Like,
It's necessary. Yeah.
It's a force you can't fight.
Yeah.
Right. And it's those times in life where something will die or fall away and it sucks and you're like hanging on to it. And then when it's gone and something else comes, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that happened, because I would have never let that go on my own. So it's like a painful process. But then on the other side of it, you're like, okay, universe, I got it.
Yeah,
I
and
see why
we'll
this had
talk
to happen.
about that specific way that the universe comes in and just everything's in your life. That's later, but good segue.
Hold on for that.
Is there significance to the number 13 here? Because I feel like that's also a number that people are afraid of.
Yeah, I mean, there's significance to all the numbers and the way, it moves through. I think specifically here, it is that sense of, but 13 we know is like a goddess number. It's supposed to be seen as like a very powerful number and very feminine. So that's why it was kind of like made more evil seeming by the patriarchy. So that we wouldn't find the power on a day like Friday the 13th. Friday is the day of Venus. So yes. And I think that death being that feminine number, it's like, what the death would be a feminine energy, because what is birth? It don't come through a man. We need some of their help. Like, we need a little bit of their nutrients for the soil,
bit of fertilizer.
Yeah, like death is also seen as this. We talk about death as a woman, as Santa Muerte and other dark goddesses, Hekate, and they are the goddesses of like death and that transition and, kind of leading people into that next phase, the underworld, so to speak.
Yeah. And 13 it deals with the moon.
Yeah.
There's 13 moon cycles in a year, and the moon is always changing. So that's like death too. Like, there's always change.
Yeah.
Things are always
it's nothing
cycling.
Can be stagnant. Yes, it's part of a cycle. We're taught very much so in like this Western American society that life is linear, that we're born and then we die and that's it. But what do seasons teach us? What does the moon teach us? What does our own body teach us? Is that everything is cyclical, and death is part of that cycle. It's inescapable.
Yeah. And I'm noticing there's a Saturn glyph on the card too. And before we had Pluto as a planet, there was Saturn. Saturn was the end. The Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Slice, you're done.
Yeah. So because Saturn has that brutal aspect, and then Pluto being the last one now, it's like.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit in the modern. Okay.
And then we move on into the devil.
Ooh.
The devil is like quality control.
Okay.
He is perversion, imbalance, addiction, blockages, vices, bondage. consumption, abuse, excess, and obsession. But the devil shows up to kind of put the mirror in front of our face, bring us to our knees, give us this very revolutionary period in our lives, full of like revelations and like coming to the truth of maybe what we're moving through. So it exposes like our darkness. It's all about shadow work. And after death and after going through a transition, then the next card would be that temperance card where we're talking about angels and spirit guides, because they're going to show up. They're going to be like, all right, pick you up. But now we have some more work we have to move through so you can make it through this transition on the other side and get the lesson in it. So then we have the devil at 15. It's very seductive card, as all of our vices are, as things like obsession and bondage and like, it reminds me of this meme. It's like, what I want is a healthy relationship with toxic relationship sex. And that is the devil. That is that addiction to something that we know just isn't good for us, but god damn, does it feel good. But showing you that there is an imbalance there, and that, yes, the devil wants you to enjoy yourself. The devil also wants you to do away with any powerful idols before you. That's the beauty of the devil. That's why the devil is necessary, to show you like, yo, you're putting all this power and putting this entity, this substance, this person, this experience on a pedestal, when the only thing that should be on this pedestal is you. Because even the religion of Satanism teaches us like, yo, God is you. Quit looking at this book, this higher being, this story, to show you the way, or to be higher than you. Like the highest worship, or however you want to phrase it, is for yourself and for like the inner being. So I love the devil, because sometimes we need to be like, yo, you maybe need to chill out with these unhealthy attachments, let go of some things, your coping mechanisms. Maybe they helped you prior, but now it's just not serving you anymore.
Mm-hmm. So does that card ever come up? So what you're saying is that sometimes that card comes up as a caution, like maybe you need to chill out with your vices, but does it ever come up to tell people that they should engage in more of their vices?
Yeah, it does. I think when the cards are reversed, some tarot readers will read reversed cards. Some people just say it's a perspective switch. Some people don't read them at all. Some people think, it's like 78 cards, there's enough knowledge there. So I think when the devil shows up reversed, it's like, oh, you could use a little beckoning to the dark side, a little long fingernail, come hither, dabbling, checking behind the curtain. Life is all about running into the darkness and seeing what's there. How do we know the light if we don't know darkness? Mm-hmm. So again, that's why the devil is like imperative along this journey.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting how the devil can be obviously looked at in a very negative way, but in this case, it is cautionary. Mm-hmm. It is to help you from going off of the deep end. So I think that's interesting that tarot is giving you that perspective where it's helpful. Yeah. But in other places, it's looked at as taboo, or there's nothing positive or nothing beneficial from it.
Yeah. And that's what we're taught, because that's scary, because the devil gives us our power back to ourselves.
Right. I like that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at like Satanism, it's basically like, do what thou will.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I want. And I noticed that there's a Mars glyph on the bottom, and Mars is all about desire. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's all about like, Mars was a war god. He was like, he would like pillage and harm just to like kind of get what, was wanted, or just to express rage. But it does have a lot to do with desire and passion. And
we all need a healthy dose of desire.
Yeah. And like fulfilling that desire at whatever cost.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that the the devil card can also be associated with like sexuality, like we're talking about it. So how can that be? Like if someone is talking about relationships or sexuality, how would you read that card then?
The devil is, how do you gain control and like maintain your power?
Okay.
In a situation where power structure is being challenged and pulled like Laffy Taffy, you know what I mean? You're really stretching the bounds of what you believe is right, what you believe is moral, like sex. Everybody has a kink. Everybody likes something.
Everyone should.
They do, even if they don't talk about it.
I got
And if you don't know, you should be pulling the devil card.
Right. Get familiar. But I've been seeing a lot of beautiful things with couples engaging in bondage and like rope play. So that's a like devil definitely activity. But yeah, just restoring the power. Like with sex, we're giving something away. It's inevitable. You're giving a part of your body, a part of your soul, depending on how you look at this act. But definitely physically. So how do we maintain our power in such a raw and vulnerable state? That's when we can look to the devil to be of service or to bring that archetype into the situation in a healthy way.
Got it.
Yeah. Very cool. Then we move on to the tower. Dun, dun, dun. I feel like the tower is much more ominous presenting of a card than any of the other ones.
Totally.
Because there's a tower, there's lightning, there's people just like falling out of this building. You're like, this cannot be good. But the tower, so it is about destruction, purification though. Upheaval, uprooting, chaos, dismantling. One of my favorite words. The apocalyptic nature of an incident. But what happens on the other side of an apocalypse or destruction or chaos is now there's just land for inevitable possibility. So this card is all about that dark night of the soul, really being brought to your knees. You know, when we connected with Lilith, she talked about going into the tree and finding healing there. But that was after she was, you know, cast out and it seemed like the world had crumbled around her. That's the tower. It may seem like the world is crumbling around you, but maybe the tower was blocking the view of what you needed to see. Maybe the tower was blocking the sun. So it needed to come down. It's the expulsion of our false castles, like these things we've built, these morals, these judgments we stand on, whatever we think about the way the world works or whatever we think about ourselves, it needs to be dismantled. Dismantling systems, dismantling conditions. So when this card shows up, it's like shit's about to hit the fan. You're going to be put through the ringer, essentially. Like whatever you thought was real is going to crumble. Like you're going to be face to face with like the truth and maybe seeing some things you didn't know were possible. But again, that sense of expansion, like this castle needed to crumble so we could build something better.
Yeah. I identify with the purification process of that, because it's like how they say it's like you're unlearning things. Yeah. So it's like you're deprogramming, you're unlearning. And there's a sense of uncertainty, right, with the tower. And I'm curious what you would consider astrologically affiliated with the tower.
Well, on the bottom, there's the Aries glyph. And the only thing I can think of with that is that it's kind of like a new beginning, with Aries being like the first sign of the zodiac. And so it's just like total destruction. All right, we're starting over again. But I was pulling that card so much during my spiritual awakening, which was also like destroying my life, you know?
Yeah.
It was not pretty, but I never felt scared pulling that card. I always felt like this was very cathartic and like this is actually what's happening to me.
Yeah, good for you.
Being broken open. And so I would associate that with Pluto.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like total destruction but rebirth.
Things coming down, walls coming down
for a higher purpose.
So that it stops like essentially blocking you from seeing what's real. You have to essentially abandon ship because the ship ain't working no more.
It makes me think of, you know how like there's so many people that they want to make things appear a certain way. Like I have the perfect life, I have the perfect family, I have the perfect job, but then behind the scenes, maybe things aren't going so well. So it makes me think about that. Like everything in the world right now that's like illusionary, that's not true. It's like being visible now. Yeah. Like those things are crumbling. So and some people can look at it as like, oh shit, it's getting worse. Not necessarily. It may be that things are just becoming to be exposed so that we can, let's start new.
Yeah.
Let's destroy what isn't working so that we can build the correct thing or what serves us.
Yeah, building something more authentic. And maybe the tower served that part of you in the past, but moving forward, and it's like, you know, say thank you. Have a little ceremony or ritual around what it was in the past and welcome what's coming in the future. So I love the fact that all three of these cards come in this very sequential order, that the rest of the tarot is a little more positive, but right in the middle here, we have this muck through our journey. We kind of have to get through, and you can see it as muck, you know, you can see it as having to cross a burning river. Haha, Cleveland joke. But at the end, like what's on the other side of this is, who knows? Like that's where your dreams are. That's where the higher self is trying to beckon you to come. Like move through this promise. Like there's going to be so much on the other side that you didn't even think was possible. You know, when you talk to anybody about their stories, you saying like the tower was the card for your life. But I'm sure looking back 5-10 years, that person would not even fathom that you'd be at where you're at right now. And so,
agree.
right? And so that's the beauty of this kind of part of the tarot, of the journey. Because that's what I explained, the major arcana. So the deck, I guess if you don't know, is broken up into two separate sets. So cards 0 through 21 is the major arcana. So those, I describe them as like very big picture cards, very like the evolution of the soul's journey. And we'll go through this cycle and this journey many times throughout our lifetime. So we'll come to death, the devil, and the tower multiple times. And then, you know, you have the minor cards, which are more about the details and day to day and all that good stuff. So yeah, the tarot is a life journey for sure.
Do you often see these cards come up together?
Actually, I don't see them come up together.
Someone may just get up from the table like,
no, I'm a head out.
right.
But yeah, they don't, which is, I guess the reason I think that they may not is because unless you're like, you're really going, like you're in it. They show up because they're not quick fixes. They're not, you know, oh, you're going through the death on Monday and come Tuesday, you know, you're doing some devil like shadow work. These cards take a long time to kind of move through, months, you know, to move through. It's sometimes years, just depending on your journey and what you need to do and how quickly you can kind of come to those aha moments and learn the lessons and apply them.
Do you think that like the events associated with each card will show up sequentially for everyone, or can like the tower come first sometimes?
Yeah, I think the tower can come first sometimes. It's like, honestly, before you let go, maybe you need to see things for what it is. Like maybe things need to get bad and you need to be really uncomfortable before you can let go. Or, you know, if it's coming in like this order, then it's like you need to let go and it's going to be hard, but like the truth that'll be revealed to you is going to be worth it.
So what, like when the tower comes up in a reading, what would you say to someone? Like what if this person is just like, yeah, my life is great?
I'll be like,
pause.
You're fooling your damn self. I would say that things may seem great right now, but there could be some event coming that's really going to make you kind of like question what you know to be true. That's going to reveal something to you. You know, the lightning on the card of the tower. The lightning destroys, but what else does it do? It illuminates. Mm-hmm.
That's a very gentle and compassionate way to deliver those messages.
I mean, I tried to, because I also don't want people walking away feeling disempowered.
Totally.
I want them to have as much strength as they possibly can to move through these chapters in life. That's why I've had people ask me like, oh, are you more of an optimistic reader, or if something looks bad, you're going to like let them have it? And I was like, I'm going to tell them the truth, but doesn't mean I have to say it in a really cold, matter-of-fact way. Like, Yeah.
And that's how we know that Stephanie is good at what she does. She's ethical and compassionate and wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try. Thank you.
Because you don't want people having that, like, that fear vibration. And I think that, like, if you give someone the heads up whenever the situation, like, hits, you may have that oh shit moment, but then you'll probably have the flashback to the time that they had the conversation with you. So it may be that initial, like, fear will come up, and then hopefully it's like, oh, okay. I knew this was coming. I didn't know how it was going to appear, but now what?
Yeah. And I try to read the other cards in the spread as well as, like, oh, you know, because maybe the Tower shows up, but then maybe Queen of Wands or the King of Cups shows up, and it's like, oh, here's these archetypes you can call on that'll really provide, like, this support for you. Here's how you can work with them. Here's, you know, I always try to give people even, like, little recommendations for things based off the cards, like pay attention to your dreams. You know, there's always things about, like, self-care or finding community, or doing a lot of internal kind of, like, solitude work. So I never just leave people like, well, this is what happening. Deal with it. Good luck.
Peace gonna get that money.
Yeah. And then even, you know, if I'm reading a coven, it's like, hey, you might want to, like, pick up some black tourmaline, or, you know.
That's perfect.
Yeah. It's like working in a pharmacy. A spiritual pharmacy.
For sure.
But yeah, I love that we're very visual people. So I think tarot's great as a mental health tool, getting us to visualize where we're at in life. It's like a snapshot of the present, can tell us a little bit about the energy that's orbiting us that might be coming into play. But some people are like, oh, are you telling the future? And I'm like, not necessarily.
I think sometimes you can, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephanie, it's like you can give an indication of what the patterns are showing, but ultimately they still have free will to make some choices. But it's like, okay, based on how things are going, here are some potential, like a potential future, especially, you know, depending upon how the cards are showing. But it's not like this is going to happen.
Right.
It's like you have some choices. Here's what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this opportunity may show up. You could say no to it, and then, you know, like, it's gone.
Yeah.
Or you could make another choice that's going to prohibit it from entering into your immediate orbit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gives you a different perspective. Like, have you thought about it this way? Yeah, not so much like this is going to happen, because at the end of the day, we do have free will. And that fate and free will, and where astrology and tarot and all of that comes into play, and fate. To me, it's like those are all the ingredients in the cauldron that kind of make up your experience. So
yeah, because I mean, when you, like, in my example where it's like someone is like, my life is great, and then you see these cards come up, and it's like, well, that could be changing. I mean, there's certainly, like, a certain delicateness and also, like, privilege that you have as a reader, that it's like, yeah, I have this, like, information about the future that is gonna fuck your shit up.
But it needs to be fucked up, right? Like, maybe somebody's like, life is great, everything's good, I'm just happy in my little bubble. And it's like, yeah, your bubble is about to burst, because maybe your purpose is greater than just, like, life being good and getting engaged and having a family and moving to the suburbs. Like, maybe your purpose is to, you know, fight for people. Maybe you need to be given a mic. Maybe you need to be given a platform. Maybe you need to tap into your spiritual path, and that's your you know, duty in this life. But I think when people are like, nope, everything's great, and then these cards kind of show up, it's like, you're about to go through some shit because you're being called to a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Because when you talk to healers, or, like, people that you feel that authentic sense of, like, they're here to change the world, essentially, be the pebble that creates ripples. We've all been through some shit. Like, you know, we were just talking to Miranda for another episode. And hearing her talk about her path and, like, just how happy, and then to hear her, like, story, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, you don't come to this path just like, it looked pretty, and I mean, you can, but you're only going to be able to really tap into the power and the magic and that darkness and shadow and eventual light through going through the muck, through death, the devil, and the tower, through knowing them, through being in very intimate relationships with these three cards.
And I think when you, like, sometimes when I see people, I can see the beauty in those people that have gone through certain things. And it's not that they're like in victim mode, but they're like, look, this happened to me. This is how I responded. You know, I may have tripped a few times, but here I am. Versus people who always want to project this perfection that we know isn't true. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you're so super disconnected, or you're living in this illusion that we can see. Mm-hmm. So it's like when people can embrace these aspects of our lives, they just become magnetic. Like, oh my God, like I love this person. Like they're inspiring. They're beautiful. It's like they can stand in all of their truth versus, again, trying to create this manufactured that version
love
of
and
themselves.
light.
Yeah,
you know, it's
ridiculous.
like trying to Care Bear you with that love and light and like blind you from the fact that like they're a real person and they have maybe been through some shit and they're just not willing to see the power and the usefulness in that.
That could be like the devil card too, couldn't it? Like just like my humanness, like the instinctual, imperfect humanness. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, that's definitely the devil as well. Look at y'all coming experts.
We're learning.
Who want their cards read?
Yeah.
Very cool. So, do you have any like other wisdom you can share with us about like what goes through your mind when these cards pop up? Like, because you know that you're gonna have to like, the conversation might get a little bit more intense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely people, and it's also like switching into therapy mode.
Yeah.
Because then people are like, well, I know what that's talking about, and spill it. And I love it. I love that people trust me enough to share some of their like real, vulnerable, raw, intense experiences. And these cards, when they come up and I see them, you know, I know that it's going to be taken there and I don't take it lightly. So I essentially like take a deep breath but I know that I'm supposed to deliver this message for a very specific reason. And these cards don't show up unless you're ready to hear it, unless you're ready to face that truth. I don't think any card shows up in vain.
That's big.
Yeah.
Like what a responsibility.
It feels like a very big responsibility, but I also feel very confident that I can execute it in an ethical, inclusive way. You know, I try to be careful with my language, but I make it real and I try to give anecdotes, and I'm going to curse if you're in a tarot reading with me. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to say some real off-color things, but the message is going to be delivered, and I'm super thankful.
So do you read these cards in reverse or
I was
in
thinking
general?
the same thing.
Yeah. I think with the reverse for me, it's about just, maybe this card just needs to be seen in like a little bit of a different perspective, or maybe you need some intense work with this card right now so that it can come kind of like right side up in full circle. I don't necessarily like read them verbatim, like, you know, if you go in a guidebook and it's like right side up, upside down, here's what it means. I guess some people say it can mean the opposite, so that's kind of how I read it. It's like, you needed a perspective switch, or to see things maybe in this different kind of way. So if the deaths, for example, were reversed, I might say like, you're just not trying to let go, like you're holding on for dear life with this thing that is trying to leave. You know, so you've got to let go. Like you've got to do some actual work. You've got to change your perspective and your attachment to this thing.
Yeah. Another thing that made me think about is, I think the reason why these cards are so scary is because as humans, we want to be in control all the time. We think we can just manage every single detail in life when we know that that's not true. So I think that these cards come in to just, again, kind of destroy that, or kind of show you like your humanness. Like you do not have control of everything. Everything can't be predictable.
Right. The universe comes in to let you know, like, you might have some unhealthy attachments that you're not willing to let go of. Well, guess what? The tower is going to come in. And if you don't let go of it, the universe is going to come in and literally sever that tie for you. And it's not going to take into account how it will affect the rest of your life. Only you can do that when you take control and like make these decisions. So the universe is going to come like a tornado and just wipe out your whole village and be like, but I took care of the problem. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So
it made me think of a sweet little moment with my niece. My 2-year-old niece loves to do everything by herself. Don't try to feed her. Don't give her a portion of a banana. Give her the entire banana, right?
Okay.
And so what I try to do with her is like, if I want her to do something, I'll ask her to do it, which she'll generally ignore me. And I'll say, you do it or I'm going to help you to do it.
Oh.
And then she'll like, no, screw that. I'm going to do it by myself. So it's like, I'm like the universe with her. Like, you either do it or I'm going to help you do it.
Yeah. And you may not like the way
Right, I'm going to pick your little body up because I'm a little stronger than you and I'm going to help you and she's going to be pissed. So that just made me think.
That is very
so
much
funny.
essentially what it's like with, the tower and then even the devil. It's like confront your demons, confront those habits, confront your darkness. That's the only way you're going to see and like know the lightness that you're searching for. On this card too, specifically this one, it's not always the devil in any deck, but there's a bullet that's like exiting the devil's body. So I always think that's really cool. It's like a bullet has no purpose in your body. It's a foreign object. It doesn't help in any way. So it's like releasing.
Yeah. I don't view the devil as evil, but
no.
Do you ever get that energy in a tarot reading? Like that there's something like an opposing energy or anything like that?
Yes. So I'll give a quick anecdote. I was doing a reading for a friend of mine and we were outside at Edgewater and it was very nice. And it seemed like a very sunny day. And so we pull the cards and it isn't till I start explaining them. I go, and then we have the devil. Lightning, the biggest lightning strike behind me, and it just starts raining, like one cloud of rain. And after I'm done explaining the card, it like wraps it up. And we were talking about this really toxic relationship that she was in.
Wow.
Whoa.
And it was this ex-boyfriend who had also like texted her that day. And yeah, it was like really intense. And I was like, that card right there in that reading. Yeah. I was like, that was the devil. That was this person embodied. Like, he is this toxic thing. He is the bullet that you need to extract from your
The
body.
universe was like, listen.
Yeah.
I hope she took heed to that.
She did a bit.
How
she
could
did
you
a bit.
not?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
love will make you do crazy things.
Listen.
True.
Listen, that's real.
Like I'll just dance with the devil a little longer. I don't know.
But and also understanding when you are the devil as well. Like there are
Yes.
parts in our lives where we are our own devil. We are self-sabotage, or we are the devil in someone else's life. And it's like, yo, take a chill pill. Like, you really fucking shit up for somebody. Take a step back. Maybe they're not able to see that like they need to disassociate from you. But here's this awareness that like you may need to put up this boundary for the betterment of someone else.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like that card is like anti-boundary.
It is a little anti-boundary, which anti-boundaries are good. But again, it's everything in balance,
Yeah.
Yes, we have death, but we need birth too. It's like, yes, we have bondage and obsession and things like that. But through that can sometimes come something beautiful, something useful. People can find a lot of freedom and liberation through things like that.
Yeah. I think this also gives us the opportunity to look at situations with a new lens. Like many of us just classify things as good and bad based on our upbringing. And sometimes it's not fair because the situation that seemed to be the worst was really what liberated you. So it's like helping us to see, like, let me just look at the situation and let me feel into it. How do I really feel about it versus what is considered good or bad or what my family would think or whatever. Like, it's really about me.
Yeah, we're told good and evil.
Yeah.
God versus the devil. Blah blah. But like, God has done some real shitty things too.
Totally.
Can't wait for people to hear this podcast. I'm gonna be banned. But yeah, like, God is evil is good. The devil is evil is good. And there's a whole lot of gray in between. Every situation is different.
Yeah. One thing that always got my gears turning growing up like Catholic and everything. And it's like, well, if God is everything, then the devil is also God.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
that'll get you kicked out real quick.
Yeah, we're about
Oh,
to
I
get
did-
banned on like shadow banned on Instagram.
I did get kicked out of Catholic school.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good job.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is true. Like, God is everything. So it's like they say, like, everything is holy. Everything is divine.
I mean, the
Even
devil's
the devil.
divine.
Yeah.
The devil has magic. The devil knows magic, is magic. All of those things. And it's all for good reasoning. It's, you know, it's, again, putting up that mirror. Even on this card, you know, you see he's like holding a butterfly, because the transformation that occurs when we confront ourselves honestly and like really raw and are just like very upfront, like, yo, okay.
Yeah. This makes me think too, like, of the times that I've experienced like the most whatever pain or whatever. When I look back, it's like really just trying to be centered in yourself no matter what's going on around you. So this helps to build strength, and it helps you to understand your own divinity. It's like no matter what is happening, I can still manage my own. And that doesn't come overnight. And that's something that I think we'll practice until the last days.
Oh, yeah.
But it does help us to help us understand our own divinity no matter what's happening.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do you have any other little interesting tidbits about these cards that you want to share?
I think if I could just leave folks with one thing, it's that to not fear what we are maybe conditioned to fear. We are conditioned to fear these things for a reason. It is to hold us back from our own power. It's to hold us back from controlling our own lives and initiating death when death needs to be initiated. From confronting the devil and dancing with him intimately when we need to, and from just free falling and from crumbling and from destruction. We see it as such a negative thing. But if there's anything that tarot, the entirety of it teaches us, is that this is just a pit stop on the journey through life, and there's always more. There's more beyond this. I think we know that. So to not fear it, to not fear the darkness, because at the end of the day, and I'll say it again, you know, we can't know light without darkness. And that also brings me to my favorite quote from a book that I'll close with, which is, what are we if not what the light says we are? So we need to step into the light full of our authentic selves, with all of our bruises and scars and battle wounds on us, and we can only get those through death and the devil and the tower.
Wow, it's such beautiful poetry, Stephanie.
You know, I try.
Thank you so much for sharing the wisdom of the tarot with us, and I really hope we get to do more episodes like this.
Yeah, I'm down to like do some more episodes about all the different cards, and we can do an episode on McQueens, the King.
Ooh,
yeah.
Ideas.
Yeah.
Catch us in season 2.
Yeah.
With we don't really have seasons.
I mean, we're gonna think about.
We're thinking on it. But yeah, we can definitely look forward to more episodes on tarot with Stephanie. All right. So before we close up, do you guys have anything you want to share about events coming up or anything like that people should know about?
Yeah, so I'm going to be working with a new wellness center, and I think many of us will be. It's called Pop Life Cleveland. It's on Waterloo. And the founder, his name is Joda. He's really amazing, and I just want to shout him out. And I want to shout out everyone on his team and staff. Yes. The interesting thing is that everyone that I've met from their camp is amazing. They're beautiful. So we have an event coming that probably during this podcast, it probably won't air in time, but it'll be this Friday. And then going forward, we have some projects coming up. One specifically I'm excited about is going to be like a static dance, and also kind of more indigenous, like with drumming and things like that. So some events around dance that are coming.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to work with them now. They have this like stationary place, because it's gonna be dope. Cleveland ain't ready.
No, if you drive down Waterloo, you can't miss it. It's an old bank, and it's basically like multicolored.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he has this guy from, I think he's from California, named Jose, who is one of the artists that work there. And I wish I had his handle on Instagram, because he is an amazing artist, and he does like sacred geometry work, and it's just ridiculous. So if you guys ever get a chance to visit Pop Life, it literally is beautiful. It's the future.
Yeah, so, it's dope. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, a lot of us are going to be at an event on Friday. I don't know if this episode will air in time, but
yeah,
we're so excited.
Yeah, there'll be more to come.
There will be more to come.
Definitely. Stephanie, what events do you have coming up?
I am some tarot events for some different organizations that are like, you know, buy a ticket, private. But it's cool. It's like interesting stuff. Like I get to read tarot at Holden Arboretum, which is like a tree museum here in Ohio,
Fun.
for something called Happy Hour. So it's like with a brewery
Whoa.
and tarot in the woods. And then I'm reading at Coven still Friday and Saturdays, 3 to 8. I won't be there this weekend because we have the Pop Life event. And then I have an event with my nonprofit job on Saturday. But go check out Coven anyway. There's always some cool stuff going on the weekends. But yeah, you can usually find me there or get at me on Instagram at st.ginese to keep up and all.
Awesome.
And what about you, Catherine?
Tell us all.
So I'm teaching a 3-part mini series on the planets, and that will be at Coven. The first one is going to be on Wednesday, October 16th. The second is going to be Wednesday, October 23rd. And we'll skip a week for Halloween and resume with the outer planets on November 6th. So I really hope that you'll join me for those. This is kind of the last little like chunk of like the basic foundations that I need to lay for as far as astrology classes go at Coven. And then once we get beyond this little mini series, we can start getting a little bit more technical. I'm also going to be hosting a open chart night on November 13th at Coven. And so basically you can come, bring your birth data, your birthday, your birth time, and birth location, and I'll get to answer a question that you want to know about your life or what's going on.
Ooh,
and I'll do
cool.
this open style. So that way people who are curious to learn more about astrology can kind of get an idea of my process a little bit.
Yeah.
But then everyone gets something out of it. So it should be fun for everyone.
I like that format.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, we're getting experimental. We want to try to expand our astrology offerings.
Yeah. Watch out. Cleveland's stepping onto the mat like real hard on all fronts, like creative, spiritual. I mean, we are a portal. 216.
We are. And your book?
Yeah. So that's another big one. So yeah, my book officially launches on Tuesday, November 5th. Yeah. You can already pre-order it on my website. If you go to www.catherineurban.com/pre-order, you can also order it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And if you do pre-order it, send me a screenshot of your receipt and I'll enter you into a drawing for a free 60-minute reading with me.
Awesome.
Hey.
Yeah. So, and there will be book release parties to come. I know we'll be having one at Coven on Saturday, November 16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'll be there.
It'll be a party. Yeah, you will be there.
I will be there.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to us today at The Fallen Fruit. And be sure to check us out on Instagram at The Fallen Fruit Podcast. You can also find us individually. I'm Astro Catherine.
Lynette Muddy's 3, I think.
Yeah.
I told you. Know your own handle. Come on. I said mine. It was at st.ginese.
Awesome. So look forward to connecting with you, and please drop us a line. We love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And any feedback or requests for future episodes, drop us a line.
Please
Yeah.
do. Peace.
Bye.
Peace.